Hello, good morning. Welcome everyone to the Ready, Set, Work Women's Job Seminar. My name is Claire Smart and I am with United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County. I'm an account manager there. We are so excited to have you with us this morning to learn a little bit more about social media and your online presence, how to navigate job boards. I, along with three other fantastic individuals who will be introduced throughout today's session, are excited that you're here with us this morning. We're excited that you're taking that next step to learn more, to get resources, and to start feeling really confident to enter into the workforce. So like I said, we'll be explaining some best practices when it comes to social media. We'll talk a little bit about your online presence, some do's and don'ts. We're going to dive really deep into both Indeed and LinkedIn, but also talk about a variety of other job sites, both here in our local community and national, and then really end with a beautiful wellness minute to really bring us back together and feel really confident going forth after today. So with that, I want to jump in and get this program started. I already see that we're using that chat feature, which is awesome. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, put them in there. We have people monitoring and we'll be sure to answer those as the session continues. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jessica to get us started today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out into our virtual world. Claire, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, that would be great. All right, so as we kind of mentioned earlier, we're going to talk a little bit about your online presence. So this doesn't just have to be on, your job boards. It can also be on your own social media platforms. Next, please. All right, so that being said, I think it's fair to say that the majority of us are on at least one social media platform. So I'd just like to take a moment here for you all just to reflect on what your profiles look like. Do you feel like your profiles reflect your best self? Go ahead, Claire. All right, so I'm hoping that your reflections are good and that you do feel confident in your profiles, but just to be sure, we're gonna go over some do's and don'ts regarding your profiles. And then we are going to go to the next slide regarding your profile pictures. So I think that it's pretty clear to say that this is your social media profile picture. It's not your professional photos. It doesn't need to be a professional headshot, but traditionally a clear photo is going to be the most inviting for employers to see. As far as what to avoid, it's best to avoid photos that include any sort of taboo or illegal behavior. So that could be nudity, illicit or recreational drug use, obscene gestures, or even an overly filtered photo. Go on to the next one. All right. As far as the content that we post, the most important thing to think of when you're posting something is the simple question of, does this feel neutral? So the good majority of the posts that you're making likely are okay. They're probably appropriate. So talking a little bit about what you may want to avoid comes along the length of using offensive language. So this could be swear words, using racist, sexist, or homophobic language. Also making posts that may result in some sort of controversy, such as exploring your political views, talking about illegal behavior that you may partake in or support in other social issues. Again, I just want to acknowledge with saying that you are free to express your beliefs and your values. That is your right. It's just best to find the appropriate outlets to express those on. So posts regarding employment. Some of you guys may have had employers that really did not treat you well. You didn't have a good experience. You may even be struggling with your current employer. Even if you are frustrated, it is best to avoid posting anything about those interactions on your social media. Other employers often look to see how you represent yourself in the organizations that you're a part of. If they're seeing that you're making posts, leaving negative remarks about an employer on a very, very public platform, they're likely going to avoid employing you further. If you are experiencing some of these frustrations, it's best to reach out to a friend, a spouse, a counselor, therapist, someone who is a trusted individual. More specifically, though, if you have experienced any sort of discrimination in your workforce, or if you are currently experiencing any discrimination, it's best that you reach out to the EEOC. The EEOC is responsible for enforcing federal laws that make it illegal to discriminate against a job applicant or an employee. Next, let's brief over your network. So you may have a friend who tags you in potentially embarrassing or inappropriate posts or memes. You may be following a group that doesn't necessarily reflect your current values and beliefs. You might also even be the one making some of these posts. So it's best to just go ahead, have conversations with these friends that may be doing that. Otherwise, go ahead and clean out your friends list, remove yourself from groups that you no longer value, just to present yourself a little bit better. So overall, the majority of the things we talked about could just be resolved with some privacy setting changes on your social media. The pictures that are posted up here are specific to Facebook, but overall, everyone has some sort of privacy setting. So each of your posts can be changed specifically. So you could make some public, you could make some just to your friends. It's best to use your best discretion on that. But just one key thing that many people believe that if their profiles are just invisible to the general public, that they're safe. Unfortunately, if you completely shield your profiles, sometimes employers may make that seem like, I don't know, it seems like they're hiding something. So overall, just use your best discretion when you're posting on your social media, and go ahead and just review some of the things that people can see.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for that great first part of our session. Now we're going to jump right into creating a profile and navigating Indeed. Again, I already see some great talk in the chat. Feel free to keep using that as the session continues.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Jessica. Welcome and good morning to everybody. My name is Dana Carter, and I serve with Manpower Group's marketing team. So glad to be with you this morning and talking about Indeed and your job search as you navigate that. So next slide, please. Okay, so starting with your job search, one of the probably the most expansive sites out there is Indeed.com. And Indeed is kind of a culmination of job postings from across the internet, and also postings that employers can post specifically on Indeed.com. But think of it like a search engine for jobs, just like Google would be a search engine for anything on the internet. So Indeed.com is a great source if you're looking for just understanding what jobs are out there and starting your job search. So again, some of the easy steps to get started: visit www.indeed.com. And then there's a search bar. So it's the what box. And in there you can start typing a description of the type of job you're looking for, the type of skill set you have, or even if you know there's a company that you're itching to work for, you can search that company name and then see what jobs they have posted out there and just get an idea of what roles they're looking to fill. You can also narrow your search. I find this incredibly helpful. Narrow your search to your location. So if you know you are looking at a particular, maybe it's a city, county, or zip code even, I put that right into the where box, because you don't want to be getting job postings from all over this state or even beyond, and then have it be something that's just not accessible. So definitely narrow it down by location, and then just go ahead and click find and see what pops up. Indeed also, as I'm talking through this, I just wanted to call out, Indeed also has a really nice resource called Essential Job Search. It's their Essential Job Search Guide. So make sure we'll put that in the chat or in the links that we share with you afterwards. But that has a lot of wonderful tips for everybody to leverage in just knowing how to get the most out of this awesome job search resource. Next slide, please. So as you search, you put in something in the what box, you put something in the where box. So I, for instance, searched for warehouse roles in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You have a variety of different filtering options to help you narrow down your search. For instance, okay, I put Milwaukee, but maybe I'm really willing to go 50 miles out, or that might be a little expansive, but maybe it's 10 or 15 miles out. You also can put in a salary estimate, even company or job types within that particular warehouse area, or whichever area. I chose warehouse because I know it's a very hot job right now. There's lots of great needs in warehouse logistics, industrial, manufacturing. And so just wanted to show some of the options there. So when you're searching, you'll see if you're using your desktop, you'll see some of the job search results populate on the left-hand side. And if you click on that, it'll on the right-hand side give you all of the inside details about that job. If you're looking on your mobile device, like a phone or tablet, it'll just, when you click on it, it'll open a new window and show you all the different details of that job. Another important thing, if you go to the next slide, another important thing is that as you're looking through here and you get down to a job that is really piquing your interest, so maybe it's the hourly wage is in line with what you're looking for, the job type or the hours, the responsibilities and the skill set, you're getting a better understanding of that and you want to apply. So through Indeed, they make it very easy to apply right through Indeed.com. But the key is to create an account. And that's what really makes it super easy. So if you go to the next slide, please. There are some big benefits to creating an Indeed account. And just like on other job search sites, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment, there are benefits to having your information out there. Number one, on Indeed, it's free. And it really makes your job search and application process super fast and easy. More of like a click of a button because you've already done the heavy lifting on creating your resume and your profile already. Number two, you can also save jobs that you want to apply for later. Excuse me just one moment. Have a little tickle. So you can save jobs that you want to apply for later. You can also track the jobs that you've applied to, and you can also set up job alerts, excuse me, that allow you to get job postings blasted directly to your email address. So for instance, instead of having to go to Indeed.com every day, you're getting the posts that are relevant to your job preferences directly to your email. All right, next slide, please. All right, thanks for bearing with me with my tickle. With that, so to create an account, so in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a sign in button. So click sign in, navigate all the way down to where it says new to Indeed, create an account. Super easy, you'll fill in some basic information, email address, password, your name and information, and it will prompt you to then complete your account. Okay, next slide. Awesome, thank you. So with that, Indeed.com is a wonderful site. And if you set up your account on there, it makes your job search process so much more easy and quick. There are other job boards and other sites that are trusted that you can reference, one being manpower.com. So highly recommend that you check out manpower.com. Also set up a profile on manpower.com because it allows recruiters to see your preferences. And even if you haven't applied, they have the ability to connect you with jobs that fit those preferences and your unique needs. So definitely encourage you to check out manpower.com explore jobs, but also set up your profile there so recruiters can start working for you. All right. And with that, I think that's my last slide. I'm going to pass it over to Claire. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for that really great high level information about Indeed, a great resource that we're really excited to share with you. So again, with that, just gonna remind everyone that questions can be asked in the chat box. We are looking at that, but also feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions now about Indeed or anything we've talked about so far. Take a sip of my tea, just in case anyone wants to unmute. Okay. With that, we're just going to take a quick 3-minute break. One thing that we're going to talk about a little bit later is we understand that a lot of people are staring at the screen for a lot of their days today. And so we want to give people some time to take a step away from your computer, go get some more coffee, some more tea, get some water, whatever you may need. And we'll come back in just a few minutes and continue the rest of our session. I hope everyone is back, was able to get a refreshment, stretch a little. I know I saw some people doing some stretches in the chat. I get it. I get it. Zoom fatigue is real. So hope everyone's situated, comfortable, and ready to continue on. With that, we're going to welcome back Jessica, who's going to talk a bit about creating a profile and navigating LinkedIn, similar to what we just talked about with Indeed. So welcome back, Jessica.
Hello again. As Claire mentioned, talking a little bit about LinkedIn, but according to the pre-registration survey, it sounded like a good majority of you guys have a LinkedIn account. So I'm going to focus primarily on what a profile should look like and some brief navigating skills along the way. So if you do not have a profile, you're going to go ahead and type into Google LinkedIn, or you're going to go into your address bar and type in www.linkedin.com. And I am hopeful that this is the screen that will show up on your computer. From here, you're going to go ahead and click the Join Now button. When you go ahead and click that button, it's going to go through a various amount of questions with you. Things like creating an account, your name, your location, your past employment, your employment interests are, things like that that are going to help you essentially formulate a completed profile. So once you do all that fun stuff, it's going to essentially create a very basic profile for you. You'll be able to find your profile in a tab that's labeled Me when you go to the web page. I don't have that on the screen. But overall, LinkedIn really allows you to see your progress. For instance, here, Joy's profile is at a beginner level right now. That's just because they don't have their profile picture set up. They don't have any of their employment put in, anything like that. So in order to add more details to your profile, you're going to go to the Add Section button. When you click on that button, you're going to get a drop-down menu, as you can see on the right side of your screen, and you're going to go through each one of those and complete them so you'll have a fuller profile. Once you do all of that, this is what hopefully your profile will look somewhat like. Okay, so you're going to have some sort of professional headshot in your as your profile picture. Your profile is going to be open to employment. As you can kind of see there, it says open to. And you should have also been able to fill in what your next job should offer you. So for instance, Joy is interested in reception and administrative assistant positions. You should also have a completed about section. So this section is going to enhance your success and your strengths that you have in a brief paragraph form. It also is going to have a completed experience section. So this section is specifically employment. So for each employer, you're going to have the position title, the location of it, how long you worked there with months and dates, and also the description of each position. You're also going to include a completed education and potential volunteer experience section as well. And lastly, there's going to be a section that allows you to add in your skills and accomplishments. So the skills section is just going to be brief one words such as customer service that you find to be a skill of yours. There's also going to be a section that is accomplishments. There's many things that you can put under it. Things such as a second language or coursework that you've taken that could really enhance how an employer views you. There's also a section here that you can see on the screen that says take skill quiz. The majority of these quizzes pretty much assess how well you understand a certain database or computer program, such as like Microsoft Word. If you feel comfortable with any of the skill tests available, go ahead and take one. You're able to retake it if you don't pass, and there's no negative remarks that say, oh, you didn't pass. So there's really no harm in trying them out. Once you've done that and you feel confident with your profile, it's time to start using LinkedIn for you. So we're going to go through each of the tabs on the taskbar on the top of the screen, specifically just to talk a little bit about how they're important and how to utilize them. So let's start off with the My Network tab. So this is where you're going to see your network. You're going to be able to connect with people. People are going to be able to connect with you. LinkedIn does a really good job of accumulated suggested people that you may want to connect with. This is based off of your past education, past employment, or even people within your industry. So you can certainly use these suggestions and start adding people that way. Otherwise, you can utilize the search bar and type in somebody's full name for a more specific result. It's really important to try to get as many connections, useful connections, that you can on LinkedIn, because the more connections that you have, the more likely that employers are going to see you on the top of their recruiter lists. They're going to be able to see that you have networking abilities, which is automatically more appealing. And also, you're just going to be able to find people easier because you're going to be connected with them. So how do you connect with people? We're going to talk about that in the next slide. So it's pretty easy. For the purposes of this presentation, I went ahead and tried connecting with my real self. So what I had done is typed in my full name in the search bar, and the search result on the top box is what came up. So you go ahead and you click connect. LinkedIn allows you the opportunity to add a note to your connection or to skip the step. My suggestion is that the only time that you should skip the step is if you've worked with them closely before, if they're a close friend, close colleague, things like that. Otherwise, adding a note allows you to connect with an old classmate. It allows you to follow up with an employer after you had an interview, thanking them for their time. It allows you to reach out to somebody who works at an agency that you potentially are interested in working at. It also allows you to reach out to a complete stranger that has some skills in the industry that you might just want to be connected with. So next, we're going to talk about the Jobs tab. So this is pretty similar to most online job boards. If you've ever used one before, it's pretty much the same go around for the most part. So LinkedIn allows you to get generated job recommendations based off of your profile. On the side taskbar, you're able to set up job alerts for jobs that you might be interested in, look into salary trends, add resumes, and with the premium features, there's some other options that you can do as well. So it's really a great opportunity for you to specify your interests. So how do you apply for these jobs? Just like this. So some jobs are going to require that you apply for them on the company website, while others are going to utilize the Easy Apply feature. So looking at these two jobs, the top job has the Easy Apply logo next to the job listing. And also when you click on it, it says Apply Now. So you can apply right through LinkedIn. The bottom job is a job that does not have that feature and requires you, when you click on it, to go ahead and links you out to the main company's webpage to apply. So I don't think there's any negative impact of applying straight through LinkedIn or any job board. However, I do always recommend that if you have the opportunity to apply through the company website, that you do it that way as well. The reason why I say that is because you're going to be able to view the company website. You'll be able to do some research on the company while you're there. And also, you're going to be able to potentially avoid getting lost in any of the other job board applications. I know I was talking with my HR manager the other day, and she said that, when it comes through a job board, it comes in with like LinkedIn or Indeed. But when you do it personally, it can come up with your name. So it's really good to be able to put a name to it right away. So another feature that I'm noticing here as well is that on the first top job, there's a section that says Randy K is hiring for this job. So LinkedIn gives employers the option to list who the hiring manager is. So Randy K is a hiring manager here. So this allows you to leverage your search as well. You now know who the hiring manager is. So here, once you get done with doing your application, you can go ahead and try to connect with Randy and say, hey, I just submitted an application. I'm really excited for you to review it. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can wait and connect with them after an interview and say, hey, thank you so much for the interview. I'm really looking forward to the next steps. Essentially, the more that employers see that you're interested in the position and that you're using your time to invest in them, naturally, they're going to be more interested in you. Okay, so the next page is the messaging page. So this is where you're going to be able to connect with your connections. They're going to be able to connect with you. This is also an area where you're going to allow recruiters and employers to also reach out to you. So for instance here, Mr. Christopher had reached out to Joy's profile and was giving her an option to look at a career opportunity that he has available for her. He asked her that if she's interested in it, to send back a resume and a good time to connect to talk a little bit more about it. This allows Joy to have direct contact with an employer and hopefully leverages the job opportunity options. So if you are planning on reaching out to your connections or an employer, it's very important to remember the 4 Ps, okay? The first one is to be polite. It's very important to come off as kind and well-mannered. Next, be personalized. Don't send just a generic message. Employers and connections see those all the time. Go ahead, take some time, look at their profile, see if there's anything that you can connect on a different level other than just seeing their picture. Okay, the more personalized you are, the more interested they will then be as well. Next, be professional. So this could lead into a job opportunity for you. So double check your spelling, think about the format of your message, and try to generate as much positivity as possible. And lastly, be praiseful. Thank them for their time, acknowledge their successes, and reflect back on why it's important for you to be a part of their network. Alrighty, and the last tab that we have here is the notifications tab, and that is exactly what you think it is. That's where you're going to get all your job alerts from jobs that you had suggested that you wanted alerts from. You're going to see who's been able to view your profile. You'll be able to see notifications of when your connections make posts, when their birthdays are, when they get promotions, other things like that that allow you to leverage LinkedIn and make as many connections as you can. If anybody has any questions, I will do my very best to answer them now if you'd like.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessica. Okay. And next, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some additional resources that we have available for you. I know Jenna has mentioned this in the chat, maybe a few others, but we will be sending a follow-up email with some additional resources. And also all of these are going to be available on the United Way's website, which I'll talk about in a minute. So first, I just want to mention some additional job sites, very similar to LinkedIn and to Indeed, which we just talked about. These job sites are going to provide an opportunity to log in, create a profile, and search for jobs in your field, in your area, within your salary price range. So Glassdoor, Monster, ZipRecruiter, Simply Hired, and Career Builder are some of the top job sites. They are world renowned. They have, if you just search any one of these, you see top 10 job site. And they're just really great because they have an abundance of jobs, but they also have really high success rates. So a lot of people that use these sites are able to get long-term employment from using them. They are very similar in their setup to both LinkedIn and Indeed. You'll create a profile, you'll have the opportunity to search for your job in your field, in your area. So all of the tips and tricks that Dana and Jessica just shared will also apply to any one of these job sites. Also wanted to share a few local job sites. So I know that sometimes using things like LinkedIn and Indeed are great because of just the breadth that they offer, but these are going to be really specific to our area. So first on the left for the Milwaukee and Waukesha specific, that first link, milwaukeejobs.com, is all jobs in our area where people can go in who are hiring and in a variety of fields post their jobs. So you know they're going to be in Milwaukee proper and in Milwaukee County. You know they're going to be here. You don't have to worry about applying for a job and then finding out it's in Tennessee. You know that it's going to be local. The next two sites are for both the city of Milwaukee and Waukesha County. So those are going to be government specific jobs, not necessarily in like a courthouse, but ones that are employed by the government. Those are two really great resources that are always up to date. On the right, you're going to see Wisconsin specific jobs. So those are going to be across the state. We have both one specific again to the government, but also jobs that help, and the Department of Workforce Development. Again, all of these job sites are going to be really easy to use. You'll click on the link and you'll be able to filter by a variety of different filters. You'll be able to see salaries for most. You'll be able to see descriptions and apply really easily right online. And this is just a friendly reminder that Google is your friend. By simply searching jobs in Google, I got this screen grab and it just quickly popped up with a ton of jobs right near me. It took my zip code and was able to give a variety of different options for fields. But then of course, you'll also see that you can filter. So you'll know how, if it's full-time or part-time, if it's seasonal. It'll show some trending topics. So work from home. In the current environment that we're living in, work from home job opportunities are becoming more and more relevant. And so it has the option to filter by those that are actively hiring as well as those that have a degree, no degree, a bachelor's degree, whatever it may be. You'll be able to, again, filter by all of those just on Google Jobs site. Also wanted to include some resources for individuals with disabilities. USA.gov has a really great website overall, but specifically as it relates to jobs and education. If you were to search disability services and/or jobs and education, you'll be able to find this page with 2 clicks. And on it, it has a ton of great resources for finding a job, for making sure you're treated with equity, to making sure you have the understanding to make sure you're not being discriminated against or getting harassment at your work. Again, a ton of great resources for those with disabilities. So really wanted to make sure to highlight this resource in this page. And the link is down below, of course, as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't again mention United Way's Women's Job Seminar website. This is included on all of our emails that we've sent thus far, and it is also going to be available in our follow-up resources. And if you just go to our website and you search Women's Job Seminar, it will also populate. But on it, it has a ton of employment resources, from making sure we can support you with building a strong resume, mastering the interview, 2 sessions that we already talked about during this series, but also ways to manage your finances and ways to find new job opportunities and training, community resources. The list goes on and on. It is a great website. We're really proud of all of the resources that we've been able to pull together from different partners. And so I'd really recommend during your job search or after today's session, jumping on this website and seeing what you can find. Trying to find my mouse quick. There we go. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our last presenter, the wonderful Jenna, who's going to talk a little bit about setting boundaries with social media.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And yeah, it may not seem like a wellness moment, but hopefully by the end of this short section, you feel like you've got a couple of ways to set some boundaries to make sure that when you're using social media and job boards, it's not taking over your life. So, for this part of the presentation, we're giving a few tips for setting boundaries and how actually taking the time to set boundaries, which can sometimes be a hard thing to do because we're all going 24/7, everything is happening, and it's hard to find time for ourselves. But if you are able to take a little bit of time to set boundaries with social media and with job hunting, it really can be beneficial for yourself, your mental health. It is definitely self-care in a different form. A lot of what I'm about to remind you of has already been discussed during this presentation, but I want to highlight how some of these tasks can really set you up for success and provide yourself with self-care. It is possible to set boundaries and still be active and productive on job boards and social media. So my name is Jenna. My pronouns are they, she, and I work at United Way as the PR and digital content specialist. So part of my job is working on our social media account for the company. And so I know how important setting some of these boundaries are. I personally use social media as well. So some days I can find myself just immersed in social media and it can feel like a lot. But these tricks will help you prioritize looking for that job and making those connections while also feeling like your privacy is safe. So you can go to the next slide, Claire. We will talk about tips specifically for social media, tips for scheduling time to job hunt, as I'm sure anyone who is on the job hunt right now, which I assume you are if you're on this call, it really feels like a full-time job because it is. And so setting yourself a schedule, just like a normal, like 9-to-5 job, can really help you set some boundaries so you can take care of yourself and put yourself into your job hunt. And then we're just going to have a wellness minute because we're really happy that you took this time to be here. And we all deserve a little bit of positivity and time for ourselves. So on the next slide, we're going to start with social media. Social media is such a huge part of our lives, and you aren't expected to be professional 24/7. Jessica had given some really good tips on finding a social media profile picture that can be both professional and personal. They also talked about making your profile private. You can do that with also showing your profile picture so that companies who do value a presence on social media can see that you're out there, but would like to keep that part of yourself private. And that's totally your call. That's up to you. They don't need to know everything about you. So making your account private is the first thing I would look at if you definitely want your social media to be personal to you and private. And then you don't have to worry about, what you're talking about as long as those privacy settings are really locked in. After, I will send out and actually update the employment resources page to include the links that we talked about today, as well as this recording, so you can reference some tips on adjusting your privacy settings there. I will say too, in the same vein as you don't have to be professional 24/7, you also don't need to be available 24/7 to do a good job of job hunting and to present yourself well on social media. Turn off your notifications. If you find it hard and you feel like you're checking the job boards every minute of every day. You're checking your social media, your LinkedIn, Indeed, and it's getting exhausting. My best tip for you is to set time frames. Do you have a half hour in the morning, an hour in the morning where nobody's awake in the house and you can sit down and really read through messages, quick apply on Indeed, apply to jobs on LinkedIn, and then shut your phone off, close those apps, shut your computer down, and then just let it work for you throughout the rest of the day? Do you have time in the afternoon where no one's home, or do you have time to get away, to go to a library or a safe space to do this? Highly recommend setting time frames. Set an alarm, set however much time you think you need. And really, if you are able to apply to a few jobs, put some connections out there, do some research, those applications are going to work for you, even though you're not logged into the app. So highly recommend shutting off those notifications when you aren't working on job hunting in that moment, because it can feel really draining to have to feel like you have to be available 24/7. And then set time limits. Find a time where you know you're going to have 30. You don't need a lot of time. You can be really productive in 30-minute increments, and just make it work for your day. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And then Jessica also mentioned this on social media specifically. Unfollow accounts that don't serve you. If you're looking at people's profiles, you're seeing their highlight reel, as it's called, and it's making you feel bad about what you have or you don't have, or where you are, or what you haven't achieved, or what you are trying to achieve, mute them. You can mute people without unfollowing them. You can unfollow them. You can, if there's people in your lives who you're just like, I just don't want to see that anymore. We all have those people, and really you should be using social media to your advantage. And you can, to some degree, take control over how it makes you feel by what accounts you are looking at. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. I'd love to know in the chat if you guys do any boundary setting around social media already, and if so, what are those things? It can be something small, it can be something big. I'd love to know what that is, because I also try to do it myself. So I'd love to connect with you on that. Okay, thanks, Claire. Next slide is perfect. So next tips are for job hunting, and I kind of jumped the gun and talked about this a little bit already, but job hunting is truly a job in itself. Whether you're working in job hunting at the same time, or you are solely trying to get a job, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, and it is really important to set some boundaries. So in the same vein as social media, in order not to get burned out where everything is going to feel like a chore, you feel exhausted, you don't have the energy or the motivation to keep going, and really be your best rested self for the next phase of the job hunt, which would be the interviews. I highly recommend turning off the notifications on your job boards. If you can tailor them to the more important things like interview requests, I would recommend doing that. Again, set a time during the day to job hunt. Same thing as social media, checking your social. It really is the same. Turn off the notifications when you can. Maybe set some time limits on your phone. I know the iPhone has options for setting time limits on apps. So if you're doing some of your job hunting on the Indeed app or the LinkedIn app, which I recommend, it's very easy to use. They've got a lot of one-click apply options, so you can do a couple of applications really easily. You do not need to be available 24/7. Try to add a little bit of structure to your day. Maybe not every day looks the same. That's totally okay. But when you are working on low energy and lack of sleep, which being available 24/7 and responding to things, constantly checking things. Even though you may not feel like you're doing anything, it can definitely take a toll on your energy levels and your mental health. So setting a few of these boundaries, tips, and tricks is really going to help you be your best self for the interviews, and make you feel better and hopefully less exhausted during this time. So the next slide. So now that was a lot of the same, tips and tricks, but they can be applied to everything. I think it's really important to evaluate what you're spending your time on, whether it is on social media, job boards, even with people, and setting boundaries is a really important part of self-care. So right now, I kind of just wanted to take a second because, again, we are really happy that you're here. Joining this training with us, again, is another act of self-care that you're doing for yourself. So I hope you feel really good about it. And I'd love for us to just, take a deep breath, maybe stretch out your shoulders. We're sitting in these chairs and they get, I get a little like hunchbacked a little bit. And let's just take a really big, deep breath. And I want you to think something positive about yourself. And your worth. It's, some of us might fall into the trap of when you're putting your resume together and applying for jobs, you might find it hard to think of, the value that you bring. And I think that's something that everyone experiences. So just reminding yourself of your experience, you are enough, your skills are valuable. You deserve to have a good job that treats you well. And I think if you can just say that before you start any of your scheduled times or you're checking social media, just remind yourself you are enough, your skills are valuable, and you deserve a good job that treats you well. If you have other things that you like to say to yourself before entering interviews or before starting the job hunt, I'd love to know in the chat. Positive thinking can really do us a lot of good in our mental health and just making us feel better. So this is a great way to just kind of start your job hunting times or your time on social media. Take a deep breath, tell yourself something positive about yourself, and then get to work. So that's all I had for this. Claire, if you want to go to the next slide. And maybe we can look at the chat. I can't see it right now. A few things. Don't forget to sign up for the fireside chat that's happening next Thursday, the 11th. It happens after business hours. So it is 6 p.m. to 7:30. Again, another virtual event. And we are going to be focusing on celebrating you. So kind of in the same vein of realizing that you're enough, that your skills are valuable. That is going to be the focus of the fireside chat. And then we also have another opportunity to help you out with headshots. So headshots, profile pictures, like Jessica had talked about, are a really important part of a profile. So we're offering 2 sessions. Monday, November 15th at Carroll University. You can sign up for any time between 11 and 2. You can show up as long as you register ahead of time. And you can get a free headshot for your profile. And then on Friday, this is a studio in Milwaukee. So we've got 2 locations, one in Waukesha, one in Milwaukee. And you can show up anytime as long as you register between 12:15 and 4 p.m. And then I'll put the link in the chat right now to the site where you can sign up for these events. And then just a big thank you to our sponsors, Manpower Group and Fidelity Investments. We couldn't do this without them. So now if there are any questions, our scheduled programming is over, but if you would like to stay on, we have a few extra minutes to answer any questions. We'll go off live, we'll stop the recording, and we can just have a chat if you'd like to stay on. Otherwise, feel free to sign off. I hope you have a really great day, and thanks for joining us.
Jenna and the rest of the team, does anybody have any suggestions about the apparel that they should wear or things like that for when they do come in for the headshots? Any suggestions that any of our team has right now?
Definitely. So that's a really good question. So the backdrop is going to be like a medium gray kind of background. So I would say anything that'll pop from that, white, black works really well. Any solid colors seem to work really well in profile pictures because it just kind of like accentuates you. But other than that, that's kind of all I have. I think, high neck shirts work really well for profile pictures because the profile pictures are usually really close up to your face. So you kind of want to see the shirt in the photo too. So I would recommend that just as a tip. Does anyone have anything else?
I got a tip when I took my first headshot right after college to make sure you look like yourself. So a headshot, it's important that if you're not one to wear a dark lip or to have your hair all done or to, not wear glasses, make sure you look like yourself because also you'll feel more confident and that'll really come across in your headshot. So make sure that you are wearing a color you like and you're doing everything you can to go into that headshot and really present yourself as you for future employers.
I'll add just one additional thing, and it's kind of to Claire what you were saying, that look like yourself. But I also find if you have one special thing, whether it's a nice pair of earrings or a necklace or something like that, that it can just help you with that confidence. And so when you have that smile come out on camera, it truly is how you're feeling and projecting to the camera. So it comes through on your photo.
Oh, yes. And I see Lanice also put in the chat to avoid large patterns or multicolored tops that steal attention away from you. That's a great point too. We want people to see our headshot and think that I'm focused on you. So that's great. Also.
Also, I saw, I'm just going through the chat about applying to jobs on Facebook. And I think if Facebook can be kind of confusing as far as like what privacy settings do what. I definitely thought I hid my birthday this year because I'm an introvert and I think that's all you need to know about that. And I didn't work. I thought I had hid my birthday. I was still getting birthday messages. So it is confusing even for some of us who use it every single day. So my advice for that is if you aren't confident about the privacy settings, make a new profile. Make a profile and maybe you just connect with employers on that profile. I have a profile that I use for work because I use social media and need a profile for that. So I actually have a separate profile for that. So that would be like some additional advice for that.
I'll add to that as well and just say that Claire mentioned some great resources in the community. These are all places that you can go and they can help review some of these things with you as well and help you navigate some of these sites that we talked about today, just so you can have that extra eye, just have a little bit more of a confirmation like this isn't going to be shown, right? And also just help you feel a little bit more comfortable during that time too. So don't forget about those resources.
I just saw one comment pop up in the chat real quick about scams. Job scams are real. One thing is just to do a little bit of homework on the company who maybe is reaching out or who has an ad up. And to stick with the trusted companies. So I mentioned earlier when I was presenting, staffing firms, for instance, you shouldn't be paying a staffing firm. Staffing firms are paid by employers. So that's a red flag if a company is reaching out to you to apply for a job, but they're expecting some sort of payment. Things like that are watch outs as well.
Great.
I just want to throw in a little plug real quick since someone brought up about the job scam. We will be hosting, Job Service will be hosting a in-person or virtual identity theft workshop because we have seen that a lot in our job centers that people are coming in because they're getting this information from employers about, and they don't know if it's a scam or not. So we have someone from Consumer Protection that has agreed to do that workshop. So if you're interested, what we'll do is we'll send it over to United Way so that they can add that as a resource. But that may be something that you may want to check out. Really great information about how to avoid those scams.
That's awesome. Yeah, we can then put that on the resource page so everything's in one place, and that'll be included in our follow-up email too. Thanks, Lenise. All right, if you do have any other questions, feel free to stay on. We'll just hang out for a few minutes. And then we hope you have a really good day, and thank you again for joining us.